Canada is standing at a defining moment, one that could reshape the nation's political identity and challenge the core of its democratic values. A quiet unease has been spreading, slowly morphing into a wave of nationwide concern. This is more than just a political controversy, it's a reckoning, a national test of integrity, leadership, and public trust. From the marbled chambers of Parliament Hill to the restless crowds forming in cities and small towns alike, a seismic political crisis is taking shape. Welcome to a deep dive into one of the most unsettling developments to hit Canadian politics in decades. In recent weeks, a troubling narrative has begun to surface, one that the mainstream media has largely avoided, perhaps due to its explosive implications. According to a series of increasingly credible reports, Elections Canada has discovered a pattern of missing ballots across the country. These aren't isolated incidents confined to one region or riding. Instead, this issue appears to span multiple provinces and critical electoral districts, including areas that were closely contested and could have altered the outcome of the most recent federal election. What initially appeared to be a few procedural hiccups has now escalated into what some are calling the most significant electoral irregularity in modern Canadian history. This situation isn't just an unfortunate clerical error or administrative fluke, it is a full-blown democratic crisis. Ballots, the sacred instruments of the citizen's voice, have vanished, some during the counting process, others afterward, with no clear explanation. The implications are grave. In any democracy, especially one as globally respected as Canada's, such irregularities strike at the very heart of public confidence. The very notion that votes could go missing undermines the legitimacy of the elected government and calls into question the fairness and accuracy of the entire electoral process. At the center of this growing storm is Prime Minister Mark Carney. His leadership was already under scrutiny, balanced on a precarious minority mandate. But now, in the wake of the missing ballot revelations, his credibility is on the line. Carney, a man once praised for his technocratic efficiency and measured statesmanship, now finds himself engulfed in a scandal that could dismantle his political legacy before it even fully begins. His silence on the issue has been conspicuous. Instead of offering decisive leadership, his office has issued vague reassurances about their confidence in the electoral system, statements that many Canadians have found inadequate, even dismissive. There has been no press briefing, no nationally televised address, no admission of concern, just a troubling quiet that suggests either indecision or willful avoidance. This lack of transparency has only intensified public frustration. People across the country are asking vital questions. How could this happen in a modern, technologically advanced democracy? Who is responsible for safeguarding the votes of Canadians? And perhaps most importantly, why hasn't the government acted more swiftly and decisively? In the absence of clear answers, speculation and suspicion have filled the vacuum. Concerns about possible manipulation, breaches in the chain of custody, and even deliberate interference have begun to circulate not just on social media, but within political circles and civil society as well. The districts where ballots have reportedly gone missing are not random. Many overlap with areas where anti-liberal sentiment was gaining momentum, sparking questions about whether the losses were coincidental or indicative of deeper systemic flaws. Although Elections Canada has pledged to launch an internal investigation, public trust in the agency has been eroded by past criticisms, claims of bureaucratic sluggishness, perceived favoritism toward central Canadian interests, and a lack of transparency in addressing prior irregularities. Now, the same agency is asking Canadians to trust them to investigate themselves. For many, that request falls flat. As the scandal deepens, so too does the political fallout. Mark Carney's already fragile coalition is beginning to fracture under the weight of this controversy. Critics from across the political spectrum are demanding accountability. Perhaps most vocal among them is Pierre Poilievre, leader of the official opposition, who has seized the moment to deliver a scathing critique of the government's inaction. In a forceful and emotionally charged press conference, Poilievre called for a full judicial inquiry led by an independent panel, one with no affiliations to Elections Canada or the Liberal Party. His proposals, including advanced ballot tracking systems, greater oversight, and a publicly accessible audit of lost votes, have resonated with a broad swath of the public. Poilievre's message has struck a chord because it transcends party lines. He has framed this not as a partisan battle, but as a fight for the very soul of Canadian democracy. His proposals are being echoed at town halls, debated on talk radio, and shared widely across digital platforms. Canadians, once known for their quiet civility and deference to institutional authority, are now raising their voices in protest. From Alberta's oil towns to the coastal communities of the Atlantic provinces, people are taking to the streets, demanding answers and accountability. Outside Elections Canada offices, demonstrators hold signs demanding justice and transparency. Online, hashtags like #BallotGate and #ElectionFraudCanada have dominated the digital discourse, drawing attention to what many now see as an existential crisis. This moment transcends politics. It is about the fundamental relationship between the government and the governed. Democracy is more than just a system of rules, it is a pact of mutual trust. When citizens begin to believe that their votes don't count, or worse, that they might be deliberately discarded, that trust begins to erode, and the system begins to falter. What's unfolding in Canada right now is not just an electoral scandal, it's a potential rupture in the democratic fabric of the nation. As global observers look on, the implications are far-reaching. Canada, often viewed as a beacon of stability and democratic integrity, now finds itself under a microscope. Allies are expressing quiet concern, and adversaries are undoubtedly watching for weaknesses to exploit. For Canadians, the more immediate concern is what this means for their future. If this crisis goes unaddressed, it risks setting a dangerous precedent, one in which power can be maintained despite electoral irregularities, one in which the voice of the people can be silenced without consequence. Mark Carney came into office promising stability, vision, and a steady hand. Instead, he now faces accusations that his government is more concerned with managing perceptions than solving problems. The people are watching, and they are no longer willing to accept polished talking points in place of real accountability. The machinery of democracy is creaking, and without meaningful reform, it could soon collapse under the weight of public distrust. As this story continues to evolve, one truth has become undeniable: Canada is at a crossroads. What happens next will not only determine the fate of the current administration but will shape the future of Canadian democracy itself. Will the government acknowledge the gravity of this crisis and work to rebuild the institutions Canadians once trusted? Or will it attempt to ride out the storm, hoping public attention will shift elsewhere? Either way, the course of history has shifted. The next chapter in Canada's democratic journey is about to be written, and the whole world is watching.